Greetings all. It's a pleasure to be with a panel which is what I would call very contemporary and experience combined together. So we have Vicky from Facebook, we have Ruhie from Godrej, Housing Finance, and Samir, a veteran from manufacturing. The whole concept when we saw the topic, working efficiently from anywhere. Recently, I wrote one article on WFH and WF hybrid. And one example I gave in that article was that imagine one of your high performing technical guys sitting on the beach in Kovalam under a palm shade and having a coconut water and still working on writing down the algorithm for your one of the major AI project. How many of you can relate with that? That is what the new world will be. Work anywhere. Don't tell me what to do, where to do, when to do. Work anytime, anywhere will be the future of work. Now, this is very easy to say all this in a webinar like this and sounds very, what I would say, modernistic and up to date with time that we are talking about WFA. But in reality, it will pose challenges also. So in this panel today, since we have a very good balance of people from different backgrounds and different perspectives, we would examine the opportunities of changing time, how to prepare ourselves and also face the challenges. So Vicky, let me start with you, ma'am, first. Work from anywhere is going to be the new trend, which is very obvious. And the younger generation of workforce will take that as a normal thing to do. They will wonder as to why we even went to work at all in the first place. And why did we not work just where we could from? My question is that, is this only for select industries like IT, ITES, multinational, big and rich and famous, or is it really applicable to rank and file companies also? Vicky.
Such a great question. And you know, work from anywhere, work from everywhere is top of mind and on every agenda at the moment. Work from anywhere will never work if we don't take our frontline employees into consideration. Whether it's information technology, whether you are in a building industry, or whether you are a connected organization like a bank. The reason why work from anywhere will not work if you do not connect your frontline employees is because frontline employees are the pulse of every organization. And frontline engagements really impact customer loyalty. And we've seen from so many studies, a recent one called Deskless Not Voiceless, where people who work in a head office are generally connected. They share Outlook or an email system, but people in the field don't have access to the same tools and technology. And so where you have that disconnect and policies on flowing, to the field, the workforce isn't as agile, the workforce is not as aligned. And so it's absolutely critical that we give everybody the same voice and there is no bias in how we disseminate information across our organization. And so in order for WFA to be effective, it's critical for frontline employees, for connected employees to access timely information, to collaborate real time with their teammates, to resolve issues, and they need to feel part of something greater, part of community, and participate in all of their meetings wherever they are. So I think it's a great cause. Work from anywhere, work from everywhere is going to happen whether we like it or not. But how do we set our teams up for success is by connecting everyone without bias.
So Vicky, when you refer to frontline, are you referring to the salespeople, customer-facing people?
Salespeople, people who are on mines, people who are on shop floors. So everyone, people who are not in a HQ, people who are working from home, I consider are connected. They typically have an email address, but these are people who don't have that email address, who have their mobile. Their device is their connection to their company.
Very clear. Samir, if I can come to you, sir. This is all right for industries which can work the way Vicky described. Work from home, work from anywhere. You are an expert in manufacturing. What is your reaction to all this new trend? Is it really workable in manufacturing?
Aquil, you are absolutely right. I think it will ultimately be a function of the type of industry you are in, type of work you are doing, and the type of sector you represent. The adaptation of these practices will hinge a lot on that. Let's take my organization, Samsung Electronics. Here we represent the entire ecosystem from R&D, manufacturing to sales and marketing. From a totally co-location strategy, I think we have moved towards a hybrid. So I can see in the sales and marketing environment, definitely we do have people working from the market, people working from the home, but a larger set of population is still co-located. R&D, definitely, we are seeing a larger set of people working from home, but we do have certain issues of collaboration there because when you do have multiple technologies being put into one product development, I think you need to have a high amount of collaboration for innovation. And in manufacturing, I think there is at least touch point I'm seeing on ground of work from anywhere as of now. It is all about working in the factory, in manufacturing, while interesting emergence is the need of the blue-collar worker is largely of information, how the clarification, the information, the queries which they have, that's getting addressed by technologies and the people who are working from anywhere or elsewhere, And that's the new emergence. So what you will have is core workforce not getting affected by largely a work from anywhere model as of now. And I think it will be the peripheral workforce which support them. Probably we'll see some shift in the manufacturing sector. And it's gonna settle a balance. I think we are all about piloting, we're all about experimenting. Where the balance will settle, I think the time will tell.
You tried this during work from home period? Any experimentation done?
We have done a lot in the sales organization, and we closed down some of our offices, our branches, and we had for us a huge paradigm shift when about few hundred sales reps are working from the market.
Sales is okay, but manufacturing.
Manufacturing is been tough, and we haven't ventured into that, to be very frank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ruhie, coming to you, all the new set of employees are joining and staying with organizations that give them flexibility, respects their personal time, you call it work-life balance, whatever name we want to give. And there is a lot of focus on that with the new gen employees across. Have you initiated anything in this direction?
Yeah, right. Absolutely true. And I truly loved what Vicky said about the fact that unless you have frontline working from home, just getting the corporate office working from home would make a difference. And Aquil, if I reflect back to pre-pandemic times, I used to hear a lot of leaders. We always had a work from home policy. You could take, as a company, we always said that you could take flexibility, you could work from home part of the month. But I would often hear leaders saying that if you're working from home, you're really not working. What does that really mean? It's not the right way, but I think that entire thought process has changed. And you're absolutely right in saying that as newer employees join the organization, they do expect flexibility. They do expect their timelines to be respected. And as a company, which is also very new, we were actually born during the pandemic. We recruited 2/3 of our entire employee base digitally during the pandemic. So in many ways, we had no other choice but to adapt to this new way of working. Now, I would say that the important thing here is to have a balance between the letter and the spirit. So organizations can have amazing policies. We also have the same. We are on the hybrid model of working. We're trying to find, like Sameer mentioned, a semblance as to how to do that for all employees. It's easier to do it for functionals like risk, technology, finance, human resources. Slightly more challenging to do it with the field force. But what we have done is that we've said that, okay, there's a part of the week which you can work from home. We've also tried to adapt the ways of working. So ways of working in terms of the employees has a direct impact on how you will be front facing with the customer. So adapting more of technology, trying to see if loans can be done mostly online. The greatest thing is, Aquil, is that not just us, even the government is changing. So more and more, when you're looking at us working with, like, for example, we are very dependent on the registrar's office, because you need to go, you have to register your loans. How do you do all that online? So the great thing is there is a shift from there. Many amazing changes are also happening from that aspect. So thereby making it a little bit more easier for us to offer that flexibility.
So Ruhie, since you just sort of set up the company, what age group did you hire very consciously?
Yeah, it wasn't a very conscious choice, but the way we had looked at our talent strategy, Aquil, is that we wanted to take a punt on talent, which was perhaps hire for more potential, rather than say that only one person is purely ready or has done the role earlier. We would hire that person. So the average, it's about, I would say 90% of our overall employee force is either millennials or Gen Z. So the average is very young.
That leads me to a question for you, Vicky. There's a general impression, and the reason for asking this question was that this is only suitable for young workforce. Now, maybe you don't have people above 40 in Facebook or something, but you deal with people who have more than a large share of their population, which is older in age. Do you think it will work there?
Tell you what, we have hundreds and millions of subscribers across the world of every generation. So I'll give you an example. And actually, I'll give you an example in India. Whitehead Jr., one of the forward-thinking digital natives globally, has 11,000 teachers, all working remotely, 5 generations, had no way to communicate with their leadership. And by implementing Workplace, they reduced the infrastructure costs by 80%, and they had a direct channel of communication to their leaders. They could understand their policies and benefits, and they could share feedback with each other around best practices in the classroom. And so when we say, you know, a communication channel is generational, it's not generational, it's about how easy is our technology to adopt. There is no point rolling out a comms platform that people don't know how to use. I think the thing with Facebook is, you know, people are familiar with WhatsApp, with Instagram, with the Facebook social network. And so it's so intuitive that you need to ensure you have an 80% adoption when you look at a communication platform that everyone can benefit from.
So you're extending Facebook application more to even using it as a working tool rather than only a communication tool?
Absolutely, absolutely. So crowdsourcing, using knowledge library for people to access information.
Can you give some more specific examples, Vicky, how it can be used as a work tool? Because today Facebook is only to say, hi, happy birthday to you, long time no see.
Of course, of course. Let me start with communication and encouraging two-way communication. So CEO goes live to his organization, town hall, shares the new purpose, aligns the organization. People from all corners of the organization ask questions. You've got that immediate engagement. That's the first thing. The second thing, you roll out groups across your organization that are specific to your function or your team. You share projects, you share ideas, you collaborate, whether it's diversity and inclusion activity, around what's coming out, what to prepare for, community engagement that you can be part of. Groups is the second thing. The third thing is chats, asynchronous and synchronous chats, so that you can communicate with somebody who may be offline or maybe in a different part of the world, and when they wake up, they can respond to your information. The fourth area is knowledge library. So it's basically a repository of information that anyone can access wherever they are, and everyone contributes to that repository. So it's not just reliant on IT or HR to put this information in a place that you may go to once a month, but people look for information and they share that.
I'll park this for a moment, Vicky, and I would like you to elaborate, but not many people know all these features. So maybe later on, I'll come back to you, can help us understand.
Of course.
Samir, coming to you, if you remember, about say 8-9 years ago, there were some companies which actually gave a policy diktat that employees were discouraged, if not really prohibited, from using Facebook, Twitter during work. You remember those? What's your view on that from those days to what Vicky is mentioning now?
I think, Aquil, a lot has changed, I think, in terms of the information tool accessibility and the whole. I take an example. I think let's look at, we talked about the frontline staff, the whole field force automation. I think it's a whole technology, software plus a device strategy, which has equipped the field force today, and they become, they're getting the real-time information. They can access the data. They can do the right communication with their managers, and they can be a lot more productive. So it's not only about productivity. I think it's also becoming a tool of efficiency out there. And I give, from my perspective, the way I look at it, take for us, Aquil, we have 22,000 channel partners in India, right? And 150,000 retail stores.
Wow.
And we have 30,000 frontline promoters, the sales reps. Each one of them got a device, which probably started with as a biometric or geotagging device for attendance and sales calls and all that. It's now graduated to come into a whole information access. We do a micro learning, micro learning unit where we post the video clips every morning to them to learn a new feature, a new product. We handle product launches through that. We try to manage our retail assets in the market, which are very expensive, the demo units, the whole retail assets through that. And that brings in the efficiency, how you operate in the market. And you communicate with them seamlessly. So I think technology has played a very phenomenal role in that. And also the adaptability by the organizations, the progressive organizations, to ensure that the workforce is not only productive, but also efficient. I think that's a very, very, very...
I mean, I have a different perspective. You said that everybody's using it and everybody's adapting to it. Sometimes people actually give an impression they've adapted because everybody's doing it. Sometimes I've noticed that. How do you measure that things have made a difference to the organization's performance?
I wonder if I could take that question.
Sure.
And I'll be very brief because I'd love to.
You really saved Samir from not having an answer. So go ahead, Vicky. We'll come back to Samir after this.
We're going to come back to Samir, and I'd love to hear Ruhi's view too, because it's such a great conversation. There's one thing that we say, are people actually accessing the information? There's a wonderful acronym called FOMO, fear of missing out. And, FOMO really, really drives people to want to access information. They don't want to miss out. Their colleagues are wishing each other happy birthday and they want to be part of that. People are getting recognized. They want to be part of that. When we see, leaders going live from their living room floor with pets and children, it's a great equalizer. And we see the engagement in the organization. We see more people attending these information sessions. And that's how we know people are being engaged. It's not just about the twice yearly satisfaction surveys. My question is, how do you measure
that it makes an impact on the company's performance?
So coming to short and quick surveys across the organization that have no bias, that have absolutely represent the employee's voice, whether it's bots, whether it's polls, whether it's unfiltered surveys, you can see the difference that will have in an organization based on sentiment.
Right.
So,
if I may add
come to you, Ruhie. Come to you, Ruhie.
Yes, Aquil.
Have you seen any connection between employee performance and use of this method?
Definitely, Aquil. And apart from just pulse surveys and listening tools, which Vicky spoke about, I think the important thing is for these technological solutions to be talking to each other. Oftentimes in organizations, at least what we've seen is that you've got a performance management of HR, which is separate. There's a business MIS tool, which runs separately. Learning and development team is doing things. So the moment you are able to weave all these things together, you can actually figure out that here are the number of hours a person went through. Here's the person's performance and the kind of incentive earnings that individual is earning. And here's the productivity. So, and there is a direct correlation between incentive earnings of an individual and the likelihood to leave. So when you're able to put this entire environment and not just piecemeal initiatives, I'm trying to build a culture of, let's assume, respecting people. What is the kind of number of rewards or awards I actually gave out? And having done that over a period of the last 3 to 4 months, what is my score on that particular value when I send out a survey?
You measure that?
We do. We're
Can
not
you give
all
an
the way
example
there.
of how you are doing that?
Yes. So, for example, I'll give you an example of the learning software. So we've started gamifying our product as well as our sales training. And then we try and map that with the number of hours an individual went through. What was the kind of productivity, throughput, and incentive earnings that person had? And then trying to say that if the person's incentive earnings are this, if this is the kind of learning that individual got, what's the kind of attrition that particular cohort was seeing? And we've seen that there is a direct correlation. So that's predictive analysis. There is a clear pattern. There's a very clear pattern. If 2 quarters in a row a person's incentive earnings drop, there is a very high potential that the person will seek a job in the market. And then you kind of try and see that where is the red, amber, green in terms of the productivity? Can I push in more of my learning and development coaching initiatives towards that?
Excellent response.
We've just been able to do one part, but I think this predictive analytics and this weaving this environment is very critical for us.
Can I add?
So Samir, I was just coming to you, Samir, that this works, like both of them are giving evidence that this works in real life. Now you mentioned that you have 300,000 plus distributors and points across. Now all of them don't have the ability to be tech savvy or even afford tools. How do you deal with that, Samir?
So I have 2 points. I think I'll add to what Ruhie and Vicky has just now talked about the technology and the right strategy to have. And then I think Ruhie talked a lot about rewiring the whole workflow around that strategy. I think leadership behaviors is one of the most important aspects, which we need to be focusing a lot about role modeling and about ensuring that the message goes down the line, that the way the leaders are communicating, the way they are talking about reaching out to the team, they're reaching out to the frontline staff, I think it's become a lot more important. And from a performance metric perspective, Aquil, you talked about, I think it is no more output alone. As I said, it's about efficiency. It's about having the stop points on the consumer journey, as well as the employee journey, and I think from HR perspective. And that's where the surveys and there's many surveys and checkpoints come in. And they're no more those longest surveys you are used to in the past. It's more like a few emojis can just give you reflect the mode of the customer experience or the employee experience employees undergoing or customers undergoing at that point of time. And that's a tremendous amount of data which we need. And then I think is the whole inclusive and engagement piece, which is becoming more important. And that is what I'm coming to your point. Inclusiveness is all across the value chain. Considering the frontline staff, most of the organizations will be partner employees.
Okay.
And the motivation of the partners to invest behind technology is always a challenge. So I think one of the biggest piece we talk about technology is about technology per se. I'm talking about technology interface management. How easy it is for the various platforms, the various tools, and to speak to each other and connect. And the investment has to be so affordable that the whole ecosystem creates a smooth flow of information, and it's a hinderless flow of information. Right now, I think the data security as well as the investments, the two come in the way to ensure.
And how expensive, Samir, how expensive is this whole idea of using tools and technology?
It's in use, Aquil. It's very much out there. But I think if we need to create the same experience, and they talk about inclusiveness of what Vicky said in the beginning of the call, if somebody's based in HQ has got a far better experience, in terms of technology and tools as compared to somebody's at the frontline staff, I think it's going to be a huge investment to ensure we are able to create that seamless
So
experience.
I don't want you to divulge anything confidential, but in terms of percentage of revenue, is this less or more than 1.5%?
I think it will definitely on the higher side, Aquil.
And compared to that, what is the budget normally on a training and development? It's normally 2.5% in India.
It's usually around that, what you're saying.
So Vicky, let me take you on to this, and you are an expert on this line and you are deeply involved in this. Is cost one of the factors that is pushing people away from using all this?
I don't think it's cost. I think when we think about $4 per user in some markets, we have special pricing in India. I don't think cost is prohibitive, because when you think about $4 a user a year, and you think about the return that you're getting, think about White Hat saving 80% of the infrastructure costs to use a one-size-fits-all communication platform. The exact same with MaxLife. MaxLife didn't need another video system. It didn't need a system that it does its town halls. It didn't need a messaging system. And so they simplified how they were communicating with their organization. And so they streamlined their costs. So cost isn't prohibitive. It's awareness. It's people, when people talk about Facebook, they don't know about Workplace. And so we need to get more awareness out in the market so that people know that we are helping build community across organizations and connecting frontline workers to their headquarters and to their leaders. And in the reverse, leaders know what their frontline workers are doing, the great work their frontline employees are doing, and they can recognize them publicly.
So that's a good question for Ruhie. Your organization is a nascent stage. Are you using any of this process? Are you using any of these things that Vicky and Samir are talking about?
We've adopted a lot, Aquil. I mean, I don't think many organizations would have a choice. For example, gone are the days of the grand ballroom reward and recognition ceremony. So we've adopted a very, very agile rewards platform, which makes it look like or feel like that you are in this very high environment of total rewards or recognition. We've also created a platform where people can choose the kind of rewards they want. We have adopted Workplace by Facebook as well. That's a very good tool. Yeah, we have. And it actually, I totally agree with what she's saying, because the ability of individuals to communicate, that talks back to your point. Someone sitting out of an Ahmedabad in the frontline sales team, people sitting out of Delhi, the ability of people to communicate and collaborate on certain some tools like this is amazing. Combine that with the ability to now just have all these communication tools like MS Teams on your phone, smartphones, because very rarely would actually Salesforce be able to log on to laptops. They don't want to carry heavy duty laptops around. So if everything is being done on smartphones, collaborative tool, smart and agile reward platforms, gamified learning solutions, which can also be accessed on your smartphones, we have adapted all this.
With your experience of two generations, like the generation which we grew up, and I know you for years, and the generation that Ruhie and Vicky are talking about. Ruhie mentioned that we don't need a grand ballroom to recognize people. It's enough for a screen. Do you agree with this dehumanization process?
I agree to some extent, Aquil, because that's the way the world is. That's the way the world is going, I think. So we need to transition, I think, and that's where I think the change in the leadership behaviors is becoming a lot more important.
So what you are saying, Samir, to go quickly, that you have to do it because everybody else is doing it.
Yes, and
okay,
I
so
think.
Let me stop here. Ruhie, this is like tail wagging a dog.
I think, Aquil, I guess you're kind of pushing for a reaction. I don't really think so. I think it's the way the world is going to be wired. But I don't disagree with the point you're trying to raise. I just feel one will have to choose where physical interaction is required and where it's not. So, for example, one place where I believe the digital medium comes in the way is in the space of innovation. Cultural assimilation. For a young company like ours, we get a lot of feedback from employees that they do want to connect physically with us.
Face to face, yeah.
Face to face. When you're trying to acclimatize people to this new way of working, that will be something one has to understand. How do you brainstorm? How do you innovate? When people need that human connect, how will you ensure that there nothing like digital will come in the way?
Okay, so Vicky, let me change the tone of this discussion. Both Samir and Ruhie are mentioning very authentically things that happen in this part of the world. Is it culturally dependent? This reaction, is it culturally dependent from your experience? Does it happen in your part of the world?
It absolutely does. I think that there's a forcing function, and it's called the pandemic. And the pandemic has forced us to change in 5 minutes versus 5 years. And so, we've had to innovate so quickly, and that innovation has got us to the work from anywhere discussion that we started off at the beginning of this panel discussion. And so I think there's forcing functions that are just progressing how we innovate, how we share, and how people get exposed with their great ideas across the company. So I think culturally, building inclusivity is not unique to one culture or another. I think everybody wants that feeling of belonging. Everybody wants to be included, and everybody needs to have a voice. Doesn't matter where you work in a company.
What about the human touch?
And the human touch, there is absolutely a medium for human touch. I think we're yearning that human touch. We all want to go back to the office, but we need to think about how our lives have changed, the needs of our families, the needs of our children. We need to think about having global roles, hiring talent anywhere in the world, which we wouldn't have done previously. We now have access to this wonderful talent pool, and they may be in Brazil or they may be in Holland. And so we need to think about the work from anywhere approach, because we're now able to attract wonderful talent from anywhere in the world.
Excellent answer. Excellent. If I were to ask three of you, your mantra, or to say the wise words to the people who are listening on to this, what advice would you give them in less than 5 words? Starting with you, Samir.
I think it's about finding the right balance finding the right balance where it will be between working from anywhere and not losing the human touch. So adapting
balance between adapting new technology but retaining the human touch.
Yes, because I think, Aquil, the asynchronous type of communication, we all got grown up into synchronous communication, alignment and driving the workforce and having the commonality of purpose. The asynchronous communication brings in its own issues in terms of the way it flows down.
Samir, I totally agree with you in that, merge both of them, have a good balance. But is it really possible to do it, or one is done at the cost of the other?
I think, I'll give you an example. We are repurposing some of our offices. We are 1/3 of workforce still working in office, rest is still working from home. So we are repurposing some of our offices, which gives you a flexi workspace. You redecorate your workplace.
Performance has not gone down. Is it still intact?
It's intact. In fact, there's a lot of cost savings happened. So the profitability has been, tremendously, I think, improved from that perspective. So we are talking about more collaborative spaces. We're talking about more community spaces in the office. We are talking about intentional co-locational events.
So culture is changing.
Culture is changing. And but at the same time, we do realize that there will be roles and there will be jobs where you have no choice, but you have to come to office and work.
Correct.
For example, we have e-commerce, we have modern retail, we have marketing roles, which can very easily work from anywhere. But I do have a geography leader who's doing retail sales in traditional trade model. He has to be there.
Thank you, Samir. So, Ruhie, this was the longest 5-word answer I've ever heard. Coming to you, Ruhie, what's your advice?
My advice is very simple. I think technology is inevitable. It's a fabulous equalizer. The world has to change. The world is changing, and all leaders as well as HR teams have to adopt to this way of working.
How do you make them have to? Today's generation doesn't want to have to.
Have to adopt to this way of working. And again, going back to what Samir was saying, that it's not a force, but learning this entire way of how do you balance between the human touch and how do you balance between looking at technology. Specifically because, Aquil, the point I'm trying to make is technology is an equalizer. It enables everyone to get the platform. Like Vicky was saying, it enables you to recruit people from anywhere. Look at the amount of people who will now have access to great jobs. Look at the great work it can do for hiring more gender diversity candidates. look at the kind of work it can do to get people from diverse backgrounds into your organization. So the have to is coming with its immense amount of positives, finding that equal amount of balance. It's all going to be about the way we change our mindset. And like they say, right, change is the only constant. So,
so like Godrej is a very heritage, highly reputed, respected organization for how many years now? 90 plus years?
124 to be exact.
124 years. So what happens to the other part of Godrej besides housing finance? Do you think those type of organizations also will change, or will they continue the way they're happy to continue?
No, they are all changing. The consumer products, I can't speak for themselves, but I mean, whatever little I see is.
So what you're saying is that overall the change is coming.
Absolutely, change is coming. Okay. It's here to stay.
Vicky, the change has already come. In your dictionary, the change has already come. So what is your reaction to this question? 5 words answer, the advice to people.
My Aquil, you know, it's funny. I have five words: create a future of work that works for everyone. So a future of work has no bias. So you need to create a future of work that works for everyone. So this is a strategy without bias. It's every gender, every generation. That's my mantra. Create a future of work that works for everyone.
Excellent way to put it. Excellent. And you left that question unanswered, little in between. Would you like to quickly finish in 30 seconds?
Actually, I'm good. I think I've spoken about communication and connection and empowerment and accessibility. So I'm
so
good.
one last question before we wind up. What further changes do you anticipate in the next 5 years? Vicky?
I think it's going to be a lot of innovation. I think the distance between where we work and how we work is going to change. We're going to see augmented reality and virtual reality come into play. We're going to see
virtual reality.
Virtual reality is how we learn and how we develop our staff, and how we do that at scale is going to be really interesting. And I think you're going to be some big strides in the coming months around some changes. And again, the pandemic is forcing that innovation. You would have seen an announcement.
The pandemic has actually accelerated everything. What would have taken 3 to 4 years for implementing, has done it in 1 year time. Ruhie, what further changes do you anticipate?
I think the way offices are structured in the current scenario today, you have a lot of office space in our country, that's going to change totally. I personally feel the models of engagement at work will change. You will have a lot more Uberized jobs coming up. That piece is still very underleveraged. Third is, I think it will be an equalizer. More diversity, more people who need jobs and who haven't come to the table will come in. Last but not the least, the human in human resources will never go. As these changes keep coming, the need for people to stay connected, the pat on the back, the counselor of the HR will always be there.
Lovely answer. What a lovely answer. Sameer, I don't think,
I think everything,
anybody can disagree.
Yeah, I think I agree with all the points which Vicky and Ruhie have said. In fact, they said it all. Only thing I'll add to is 2 aspects, I think. One is we'll see a lot more focus on knowledge management and knowledge sharing. And that will ensure the whole intergenerational transition and the skill shift which is happening is taken care of very effectively, and probably technology may aid it very effectively there. I see that as a huge opportunity. Second, I think, which Ruhie talked about, managerial role shifting more towards coach and mentor. I think that's a subtle shift coming in where the young generation, the people who are working remotely, they are looking more up to their managers in terms of from mentoring and coaching. And this role, which has always been, I think, never been, overplayed. I think is always underplayed. Will become a very core skill.
There's a new angle you're adding, Sameer. Intergenerational interactions will become very crucial in time to come, because this generation will also become older.
Yes.
You will not remain millennial forever. And then to shift and adapt with each generation will be a very good angle you have brought out, Sameer. Thanks. So all 3 of you, thank you very much for your input. And thank you for the type of passion that you show. the future is certainly brighter. And can you repeat that, Vicky, what you mentioned about future tongue twister?
The future of work needs to be a future that works for everyone.
Thank you very much for saying that. And thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Dr.
everyone.
Moderating
Thank you.
it. So well.
Great
Thanks, Vicky.
conversation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Sunil.
all.
Bye.